There comes a sacred moment in a person's life when the illusion of self-sufficiency begins to crumble. It is not loud. It does not announce itself with thunder. It arrives quietly, often through disappointment, exhaustion, or the slow realization that no matter how hard you try, some doors simply will not open by human effort alone. In that moment, many people feel defeated. They interpret the breaking of their strength as the breaking of their destiny. But in truth, that moment is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of your awakening. From childhood, we are taught to rely on our abilities. We are praised for independence, celebrated for achievement, and admired for resilience. While these qualities have their place, they can also become subtle chains. We begin to believe that if something is not happening, it must be because we are not strong enough, smart enough, connected enough, or worthy enough. This belief quietly shifts our focus from divine empowerment to personal performance. We start measuring our lives by effort rather than by grace. Yet there comes when effort reaches its limit. You can work tirelessly, pray fervently, plan meticulously, and still find yourself standing before an unmoving mountain. It is here at the edge of human strength that the Spirit whispers a truth many fear to hear. It was never meant to depend on you alone. This realization is both humbling and liberating. Humbling because it dismantles the pride that tells us we are the sole architects of our success. Liberating because it removes the unbearable weight of believing everything rests on our shoulders. You were never designed to carry the full burden of life by yourself. There is a divine partnership available to you, a spirit that empowers, strengthens, and makes possible what human effort cannot. Consider how often people confuse surrender with weakness. They imagine that admitting their limits is the same as giving up. But true surrender is not resignation, it is alignment. It is the moment you stop striving in your own strength and begin moving in divine empowerment. Is the shift from saying, I must make this happen, to declaring through the Spirit within me, this shall be made possible. Think of a child learning to swim. At first, they thrash in panic, trying to keep themselves afloat through frantic effort. But when they learn to trust the water, to relax and align their body with its natural buoyancy, they discover that what once felt impossible becomes effortless. The water was always capable of holding them. Their struggle was born from fear and misunderstanding. In the same way, the Spirit has always been present, ready to sustain you. Your exhaustion does not come from life being too heavy. It comes from trying to carry it alone. This awakening often arrives through breaking points. A failed business, a shattered relationship, a long season of unanswered prayers. These moments strip away the illusion of control and expose the fragile foundation of self-reliance. And though painful, they are sacred invitations, opportunities to encounter a strength beyond your own. When you finally reach the end of yourself, you discover the beginning of divine strength. This is why some of the most powerful transformations occur in people who have nothing left to prove and nowhere left to turn. They are no longer performing for approval or striving for validation. They are simply open. And in that openness, the Spirit moves. The awakening is not a single event, but a continuous unfolding. Each day, you are invited to release the burden of self-sufficiency and embrace divine partnership. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to ask not, how can I do this alone? But what becomes possible when I trust the Spirit within me? When this truth takes root in your heart, fear begins to loosen its grip. You no longer see obstacles as final verdicts, but as invitations to deeper faith. You stop measuring your future by your past limitations and start viewing it through the lens of divine possibility. You realize that your strength was never the source of your breakthroughs. It was simply the vessel. The true source has always been the Spirit breathing life into your efforts, guiding your steps, and opening doors no human hand could unlock. And in that realization, something shifts. The anxiety to control every outcome fades. The pressure to prove yourself diminishes. You begin to move with a quiet confidence, not in your own power, but in the assurance that you are not alone. This is the awakening. The moment you understand that your life is not sustained by your strength, but by the Spirit that empowers you. And once you know this, truly know it, you will never face impossibility the same way again. Long before any external obstacle rises in your path, there is a quieter, more dangerous adversary that takes its position within you. It does not shout, it whispers. It does not attack openly. It disguises itself as reason, caution, and realism. It is the voice that says, you can't. And if left unchallenged, this voice can imprison a destiny before it ever has the chance to unfold. Every person who has ever dared to dream has encountered this inner resistance. It speaks in moments of opportunity, urging hesitation. It surfaces when you are about to step into something new, reminding you of past failures. It replays memories of rejection, disappointment, and embarrassment, weaving them into a narrative that convinces you that trying again is foolish. Over time, this voice can become so familiar that you mistake it for your own wisdom. But this voice is not your truth. It is the accumulation of fear, conditioning, and wounded experiences. It is built from the words of those who doubted you, the environments that limited you, and the failures that bruised your confidence. It is not a prophetic declaration over your life. It is an echo of pain. The Spirit that makes all things possible begins its transformative work by confronting this voice, not by silencing it instantly, but by exposing it. When light enters a dark room, darkness does not argue, it disappears. In the same way, when truth illuminates your mind, the lies you have believed begin to lose their power. One of the greatest tragedies in human life is not failure, but self-disqualification. Many people never attempt their calling because they have already decided they are unworthy. They withdraw before they are rejected. They remain silent before they are ignored. They settle for less before they ever experience lack. In doing so, they cooperate with the very limitations they fear. Imagine a bird raised in a cage with the door left open. If it has lived long enough in confinement, it may never attempt to fly out, even when freedom is within reach. Not because it lacks wings, but because it has accepted the cage as its reality. In the same way, the voice that says you can't convinces you to remain in cages that no longer have doors. The battle, therefore, is not against the world, it is within the mind. Transformation begins when you start questioning the voice that has long gone unchallenged. When it says, you are too late, you must ask who defines the timing of my life. When it insists, you are not qualified, you must respond. Growth qualifies the willing. When it warns, you will fail again, you must declare, failure is a teacher, not a life sentence. This is not denial of reality. It is the refusal to accept fear as authority. Faith does not mean you never hear the voice of doubt. It means you no longer obey it. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that fear will not dictate your choices. The Spirit within you does not eliminate challenges. It empowers you to confront them with a renewed mind. There is a profound shift that occurs when you stop identifying with the voice of limitation. You begin to recognize that thoughts are not commands, they are suggestions. And you have the authority to accept or reject what enters your mind. This realization alone can break years of internal bondage. Consider how different your life would be if, instead of believing every negative thought, you examined it. If, instead of retreating at the first sign of fear, you leaned forward in faith. If, instead of rehearsing past failures, you envisioned future victories. The trajectory of your life would begin to change, not because your circumstances shifted immediately, but because your inner posture transformed. The spirit that makes things possible renews the mind by planting new truths where old lies once lived. It reminds you that your worth is not determined by your past, your value is not diminished by rejection, and your future is not confined by your present circumstances. It invites you to see yourself not through the lens of your wounds, but through the promise of your purpose. As this renewal takes place, something remarkable happens. Opportunities that once felt intimidating begin to feel inviting. Risks that once seemed terrifying begin to feel necessary. You start to move, not because you are certain of the outcome, but because you are no longer paralyzed by the fear of trying. The voice that once dominated your decisions grows quieter, not because it has disappeared entirely, but because it no longer holds authority over you. You have learned to listen to a deeper voice, the voice of the Spirit within you, declaring that what seems impossible to human reasoning is possible through divine empowerment. And in this victory over the inner battle, you discover a profound truth. The greatest prison was never around you, it was within you. And the key was never beyond your reach. It was the courage to believe that you can. There is a profound difference between looking and seeing. Many people look at their lives every day, at their bank accounts, their health reports, their broken relationships, their limited opportunities, and they conclude that what they see is all that will ever be. They measure tomorrow by today and define possibility by current evidence. But vision, true vision, is the ability to see beyond what exists and perceive what can become. It is the divine capacity to behold a future that your present circumstances cannot yet justify. The Spirit that makes all things possible awakens this vision within you. It does not deny your reality, it transcends it. It allows you to stand in the middle of lack and still see abundance, to endure pain while envisioning healing, to face rejection while anticipating acceptance. Vision is not fantasy or wishful thinking. It is spiritual perception aligned with purpose. Consider how every great transformation in history began. Before a building stands tall, someone sees it in their mind. Before a cure is discovered, someone imagines a world without the disease. Before a child learns to walk, they first envision themselves reaching the arms of a waiting parent. Nothing manifests outwardly until it is first conceived inwardly. Yet many people abandon vision because it feels unrealistic. Taught to be practical, to stay grounded, to accept reality. While practicality has its place, it becomes a prison when it forbids hope. If humanity had only accepted visible limitations, we would still believe the sky is unreachable and the oceans uncrossable. Progress has always belonged to those who could see beyond what others considered final. Vision is the language of faith. It speaks in pictures, impressions, and deep inner knowing. It dares you to imagine a life that reflects purpose rather than limitation. And when the Spirit breathes upon that vision, it becomes more than imagination. It becomes a calling. But here is the challenge. Vision often contradicts your current environment. You may see yourself thriving while surrounded by scarcity. You may envision peace while living in conflict. You may feel called to lead while no one yet recognizes your voice. This tension can be uncomfortable, even painful. It can make you feel misunderstood, isolated, or foolish. Yet this tension is not a sign that your vision is false. It is evidence that transformation is underway. A seed does not resemble the tree it will become. If you judged its future by its present appearance, you would discard it as insignificant. But within that small, unremarkable form lies a blueprint for something far greater. Vision allows you to honor the blueprint, even when the evidence is still hidden. When you begin to live with vision, your decisions change. You stop making choices solely based on comfort and start making them based on purpose. You invest in growth rather than instant gratification. You choose discipline over distraction, knowing that what you are building today will shape what you experience tomorrow. Vision also fuels perseverance. When you can see beyond the struggle, you gain the strength to endure it. A mother endures the pain of childbirth because she envisions the child she will hold. An athlete endures rigorous training because they see the victory ahead. In the same way, when the Spirit plants vision in your heart, it gives meaning to your sacrifices and hope to your hardships. However, vision requires protection. Not everyone will understand what you see. Some may mock it, others may doubt it, and a few may even try to discourage you from pursuing it. This is why wisdom is necessary. Not every vision is meant for public debate in its early stages. Just as a seed needs soil before it can withstand the open air, your vision needs nurturing before it can endure scrutiny. Guard what has been revealed to you. Feed it with faith. Strengthen it with action. Surround yourself with voices that inspire rather than diminish it. Over time, what once existed only within, you will begin to manifest around you. One of the most powerful shifts that occurs when you embrace vision is that you stop reacting to life and start shaping it. You no longer wait for circumstances to dictate your future. You align your actions with the future you have seen. You become intentional rather than passive, hopeful rather than resigned. And as you walk this path, you will discover that vision is not merely about personal success. It is about impact. The future you see is not only for your benefit, but for the lives you will touch, the hope you will inspire, and the change you will create. Your vision becomes a beacon for others who are still struggling to see beyond their present darkness. The Spirit that makes things possible invites you to lift your eyes, to look beyond the visible, to believe that what you see within your heart is not a cruel illusion, but a divine invitation. You are not imagining too much. You may in fact be imagining too little. For when vision takes root in your soul, impossibility loses its authority. You begin to understand that the world as is does not have the final word. The word as it can become does. And through the Spirit within you, that future is already reaching toward the present, waiting for you to see it, believe it, and step into it. There is a quiet deception that has held countless destinies hostage. The belief that you must feel ready before you begin. It whispers that you need more confidence, more resources, more clarity, more approval, and more certainty before taking the first step. It convinces you that preparation must be perfect and conditions must be ideal. And so many people spend years waiting at the starting line of their own lives, watching opportunities pass, not because they lack potential, but because they are waiting to feel ready. But readiness is often a myth. Courage is the reality. The spirit that makes things possible does not wait for your comfort. It responds to your obedience. It moves when you step forward despite trembling hands and unanswered questions. It strengthens you in motion, not in hesitation. If you wait until fear disappears, you may never begin, because fear is not a sign that you are unprepared. It is a sign that you are stepping into growth. Consider how a child learns to walk. They do not attend seminars on balance or wait until they feel confident. They rise, wobble, fall, and rise again. There is no shame in their stumbling, no fear of judgment, no paralysis of overthinking. Their progress is born from a persistence, not perfection. And what begins as unsteady steps becomes effortless movement through repeated action. Somewhere along the journey to adulthood, many lose this fearless willingness to begin. We become overly aware of opinions, overly cautious of failure, and overly attached to appearing competent. We forget that mastery is born from practice, not from waiting. We trade growth for comfort and potential for safety. The tragedy is not that people fail. The tragedy is that many never start. The spirit within you calls you to move before you feel ready, because readiness is formed through action. Confidence is not a prerequisite for the journey. It is a byproduct of walking the path. Strength is not something you gather before the battle. It is forged in the midst of it. Think of the pioneers who crossed unknown lands, the inventors who pursued ideas others deemed impossible, the leaders who spoke when their voices shook. None of them felt completely ready. They acted because the call within them was louder than the fear around them. You may feel unqualified. Begin anyway. You may feel uncertain. Begin anyway. You may feel afraid. Begin anyway. Because the moment you take a step, something shifts within you. The fear that once felt overwhelming begins to lose its power. The unknown that once felt terrifying begins to feel navigable. And the confidence you were waiting for begins to grow. Not because the path became easier, but because you became stronger. There is also a spiritual dimension to beginning before you feel ready. It is an act of trust. It is a declaration that you believe the spirit within you is greater than the fear before you. It is a refusal to let human limitation define divine possibility. When you step forward in faith, you are not declaring your own sufficiency. You are acknowledging divine partnership. Too often, people confuse caution with wisdom. While wisdom invites thoughtful preparation, fear disguises itself as caution to keep you stagnant. Wisdom asks, how can I grow through this? Fear insists, what if I fail? Wisdom moves with humility. Fear freezes with doubt. You will never eliminate risk from your life. Every meaningful step carries uncertainty. Loving someone risks heartbreak. Pursuing a dream risks disappointment. Speaking truth risks rejection. But avoiding these risks does not protect you. It confines you. A life spent avoiding failure is a life spent avoiding growth. The spirit that makes things possible invites you to embrace the discomfort of beginning, to accept that you will not have every answer, to understand that clarity often comes after the first step, not before it. The path reveals itself to the walker, not to the spectator. Imagine standing before a dark staircase. You cannot see the top. You cannot see the full journey. But when you step onto the first stair, light appears for the next. And with each step, the path becomes clearer. This is how faith operates, not by revealing the entire journey at once, but by illuminating the next faithful step. You are not called to have everything figured out. You are called to begin. And as you do, you will discover that courage is not a sudden burst of bravery, but a quiet decision made repeatedly. It is choosing to show up when doubt whispers. It is choosing to try again when failure stings. It is choosing to move forward when comfort begs you to stay. Your destiny does not require perfection. It requires participation in. So start the business with what you have. Write the first page even if it feels inadequate. Apply for the opportunity even if you fear rejection. Speak the truth even if your voice trembles. Take the step, however small, however uncertain, because when you move, the Spirit moves with you. Strength meets you on the road. Provision meets you in obedience. Confidence meets you in experience. And what once felt impossible begins to unfold, not because you waited until you were ready, but because you chose to begin. One of the most powerful shifts that can occur in a human life is the transformation of mindset, the movement from scarcity to abundance. This shift does not begin in the bank account, the workplace, or the environment. It begins in the mind. For as a person believes, so they live. If you believe there is never enough, you will live in fear of loss. If you believe opportunities are limited, you will compete rather than create. But when the Spirit awakens you to divine abundance, you begin to see life not as a battlefield of lack, but as a field of endless possibility. Scarcity thinking is subtle. It whispers that someone else's success diminishes your chances. It tells you to hold tightly to what you have, because if you release it, there will be nothing left. It convinces you that resources, recognition, and favor are reserved for a select few. Over time, this mindset shapes your decisions. You avoid risks, resist generosity, and shrink your dreams to fit what feels realistic. But scarcity is not always a reflection of reality. It is often a reflection of fear. The Spirit that makes things possible reveals a deeper truth. Heaven operates on overflow, not limitation. The same sun rises for every person. The same rain falls on every field. Nature itself testifies to abundance. Countless grains of sand on a shore, innumerable stars in the sky, seeds within a single fruit capable of producing forests. Creation does not model scarcity. It demonstrates multiplication. Yet many people live as though life is a small table with limited portions, scrambling to secure their share before it runs out. This mindset breeds jealousy, comparison, and anxiety. Instead of celebrating others, they feel threatened by them. Instead of collaborating, they isolate. Instead of trusting, they hoard. And in doing so, they unknowingly close themselves off from the very flow of abundance they desire. Abundance is not merely about material wealth. It is a posture of the soul. It is the confidence that there is enough grace for your mistakes, enough strength for your trials, enough opportunity for your calling, and enough provision for your journey. It is the understanding that your value is not determined by what you possess, but by what flows through your life. When this mindset takes root, something remarkable happens. You stop living in survival mode and start living with purpose. You no longer make decisions solely to avoid loss. You make them to create impact. You begin to give without fear, knowing that generosity does not deplete you, it expands you. You celebrate the success of others, recognizing that their breakthrough is evidence of what is possible, not a threat to your own. Consider a river. It does not hoard its water, it flows, And because it flows, it remains fresh and life-giving. A stagnant pool, however, holds tightly to its contents and becomes lifeless over time. In the same way, abundance flows through those who release fear and embrace trust. This transformation does not ignore real challenges. There may be seasons of financial strain, limited opportunities, or delayed breakthroughs. But abundance is not the denial of difficulty. It is the refusal to let difficulty define your identity. It is the decision to believe that lack is a temporary condition, not a permanent verdict. The Spirit empowers you to see beyond what is missing and to recognize what is present. Gratitude becomes a doorway into abundance.